Thank you, Senator Warren. Let me recognize Senator Tillis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Admiral, congratulations to you and to your family and your team for your nomination. I'd like to start just by asking a general question. About a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, we got an update from North and Southcom on China's engagement primarily in Latin and South America. Can you give me a quick rundown within your area or your future area of responsibility in terms of China's relationships, say, today as compared to 5 or 10 years ago? Ostensibly economic or non-military engagement, but we all know that there's a military dimension to almost everything that China does. So just a quick rundown of the areas of greatest concern.
Yes, Senator. I spoke to Admiral Fowler last week after he testified. I think the main point that comes out is China is a global problem. When you talk about their areas of influence and what does it mean globally, there are economic efforts that are underway by China across the globe. There are military efforts underway, and it furthers their reach. It would allow access, logistic support in time of crisis. So all of those things are a bit concerning. And for allies and partners across the globe, they have to understand what that means.
Thank you. A number of my colleagues have covered the fifth generation F-22, F-35, the importance of those programs. The one question I had, I think, with General Berger, there's some thought in the future of the Marine Corps force design of reducing squadrons from 16 to 10 aircraft, I think. What's the rationale behind that within your, and what impact could that possibly have in your area of operation?
Thanks, Senator. I think General Berger is, in his former position as the commander of Marine Forces Pacific, he got a frontline view of the main concern for the next generation, if you will. And I appreciate his efforts to restructure, to take on adjusted mission sets, and to ensure that his forces are contributing to deterrence. I would like to highlight that all of the service chiefs are on board with the same set of concerns. So I appreciate and admire the work done by CNO Gilday, by Chief C.Q. Brown, by General McConville, and by General Clark.
And actually, I may have time for two questions, but the 360 missile defense system in Guam's been raised as the top unfunded priority. Do we have our priorities in order? Do we just simply not have the resources to do it? In your opinion, why is it that we have this unfunded priority, and what should we do about it?
Thanks, Senator. I think Admiral Davidson and I highlighted the right priority order as needed to foundationally begin to identify and show that credible deterrence that's needed inside or west of the international date line. There are a variety of opinions that there may be a better system, that there's an integrated air and missile defense problem, vice just a ballistic missile defense problem. So I think those are the different competition voices. What I believe is there's a need in the near term to defend against all of those threats from a 360-degree standpoint. And if that answer is Aegis, I'm absolutely supportive. If there's a better answer that can be delivered in the near term, I would be ready to listen to that if confirmed, but that's how I see it.
One other question just on the F-35 program. Several of our allies are participating in that program. We understand the military significance of it, but to what extent has that engagement been helpful from a diplomatic perspective?
Senator, it's always helpful when our allies and partners are operating with the same stuff we are. It absolutely makes us more interoperable. It opens up opportunities for logistics sites, supply, cooperation and other events like that that just continue to expand the relationship and make us more effective in operations.
Thank you, Admiral. Mr. Chair, if I had more time, I would ask the Admiral if the Aqualung nickname was inspired by the breathing apparatus or the Jethro Tull album, but I'll leave that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Tillis. Let me now recognize Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral, thank you for your service. Good to see you here with us today. Admiral, the Marine Corps has been implementing its Force Design 2030 plan to support littoral operations as a lighter, much more maneuverable force, as you're well aware. For example, they've talked about divestment of tanks in favor of joint light tactical vehicle equipped with some long-range precision munitions. Have you been monitoring the Marine Corps' progress, and if so, what are your thoughts about this approach?
Thanks, Senator. Commandant Berger is extremely thoughtful, and as the former head of the Marine Corps in the Pacific, like he's seen firsthand, I think his structure and approach is correct. It will really help to generate deterrence that we continue to talk about today in the form of whether it be surface-to-air capability, anti-ship capability, and the ability to expand a competitive space from the land domain into a mostly maritime domain. So his site picture is correct, and hopefully he can keep that plan on track. It would be better under the sense of urgency needed to deliver sooner rather than later.
Very good, Admiral. Thank you. When Admiral Davidson appeared here 2 weeks ago, I questioned him on a strategy focused heavily on conventional deterrence would fare against China's three-pronged strategy of unrestricted warfare, given that its efforts are undertaken below the threshold of armed conflict. And I think this also applies to our partnerships. The type and caliber of security assistance we're providing should certainly reflect our mutual threats that we all have. So my question is, to you, sir, is to what extent do you believe our security assistance should include cyber security assistance or measures to enhance resiliency against information warfare?
Senator, it should absolutely include it. First, a strong defense against the cyber problem set that exists. Without a doubt, resiliency, and I would go one step further, the potential for reconstitution.
Admiral, on March 4th, Admiral Davidson introduced his investment plan of needed capabilities for Indo-Pacom. And this plan includes over $2 billion for space-based radars. And as you know, the Chinese are rapidly launching ISR satellites to better monitor the Indo-Pacom. And last week, they launched another trio of Yogan 31 satellites. I think this is the third launch since January 29th of this year. It's clear that we must improve our capability and capacity to monitor the region from space. And there's certainly a number of innovative commercial companies out there, such as Orbital Effects of Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is quickly launching radar satellites with the necessary capabilities. And quite frankly, they're doing it at a fraction of the cost of traditional government efforts to address national security threats. Admiral, do you support the use of these capabilities to more quickly and cost-effectively address this challenge?
Yes, Senator. You highlighted the extreme buildup in the space domain, and that is certainly concerning. Any ability to increase capability, capacity, resiliency in the space domain would be of benefit, and if confirmed, I would support that.
Right. Admiral, the Department of Defense is currently developing a training program to enable service members and civilian employees to better understand and better identify foreign malign influence campaigns and cyber exploitation generally as its targeting members and their families. So my question to you, sir, is to what extent have you contended with these issues at the Pacific Fleet? And how will you inform your approach to Indo-Pacom personnel related to this issue?
Senator, my team reviews my profile in the cyber domain, and over the past 6 months, they've removed over 250 false sites that are claiming to be me. I think that gets to the indication that this is a persistent threat, as was mentioned before, low cost, and we have to be on our game. We have to understand what it means and continue to defend against it.
Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Peters. Let me recognize Senator Scott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Admiral, for your service. I had the opportunity to serve in the Navy, and it was a great experience. They didn't pay me much, though. But of course, I was 18, had no experience, too. They shouldn't have. Do you believe that it's clear that we've got to prevent Communist China from controlling Taiwan? It would be a strategic necessity for the United States to make sure Taiwan remains not controlled by Communist China, and the loss of Taiwan would devastate our ability to counter the aggressive actions of Communist China?
Yes, Senator. Again, as the policy identifies that through the Taiwan's Relation Act, we support the defense of Taiwan. The 3 communiques and the 6 assurances, it would negatively impact our standing in the region if that were to happen, and it would challenge the rest of our allies and partners and the U.S., negatively impacting our ability to operate freely in that area.
When you look at what Communist China has done with Hong Kong, why haven't they been even more aggressive with Taiwan, do you think?
I don't know how to answer that one, Senator. Judging from intent, I think what I would articulate is we've seen aggressive actions earlier than we anticipated, whether it be on the Indian border or whether it be in Hong Kong or whether it be against the Uyghurs. We've seen things that I don't think we expected, and that's why I continue to talk about a sense of urgency. We ought to be prepared today.
Thank you. I introduced the Taiwan Invasion Prevention Act to end the U.S. strategic ambiguity about Taiwan. I believe it's time for the U.S. to say clearly that we will not, absolutely not allow Communist China to invade and subdue Taiwan, and that both of us need to, both Taiwan and the United States, need to invest in the resources, weapons, training, and strategic dialogue to ensure that Xi understands that he has nothing to gain from using force against Taiwan. It's not calling for their independence, only that we need to meet the threat that Xi has announced through his aggressive actions. What are your thoughts on this?
Senator, the current policies have been able to keep the status quo in place now for a number of years. I would be open to and hope to be, if confirmed, included in any conversation should we decide to change, adjust that policy. We would have to ensure we understand the risk and be extremely thoughtful if we were to go down that path.
What else do you think we need to do to make sure that Xi doesn't decide to invade Taiwan? What should we be doing that we're not doing right now?
Senator, I think an increase in our forward deterrent posture, as identified by Admiral Davidson and the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, is a great first start. But capable, lethal forces west of the dateline to be able to respond on extremely short notice, combined with synchronization with our allies and partners to ensure that all understand that that's not within the best interests of anyone in the theater.
Do you think we have the right resources so Taiwan will not get overwhelmed by the aggressive acts of Communist China?
Senator, I'm really encouraged by the actions of Taiwan in accordance with the Taiwan Defense Act with regard to the capabilities that they are purchasing, with regard to the indigenous capabilities that they're pursuing, all for the defense of where they live, and that has to continue.
Do you think Japan is getting prepared for aggressive actions by doing enough to get prepared for the aggressive actions that Communist China clearly is threatening for the region, to the region?
Yes, Senator. Japan is the cornerstone of the alliance in the region. I think they've watched all of the events you and I talked about a few minutes ago, and they understand what does that translate as it applies to them. If you were to think of the Senkaku Islands, I believe that they are concerned I'm extremely happy with the interoperability, the coordination, and the relationship we have with the Japanese. I think it's a strong, as I said, cornerstone to the foundation in executing deterrence in the region.
Thanks for your service. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Manchin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Admiral. And first of all, thank you for your service, and I want to thank your family for supporting your service. I know it's a family event and an affair. Sir, one of Admiral Davidson's top priorities is a mission partner environment that would serve as a common platform for our partners in the Pacific to work collaborative in a cyber domain. So do you share the urgency of promoting greater interoperability of the cyber operations with our allies and partners in the Pacific?
Senator, absolutely. The mission partner environment generates synchronization, ability to command and control beyond just the cyber domain. So think ISR, think coordination, operations and planning, all the way to execution. It's absolutely critical.
Have you had to coordinate with Cyber Command in your past? Have you worked with them in the past?
Senator, at the PAC fleet level, I have a support organization in cyber, but I don't personally coordinate directly with Cyber Command. That's Admiral Davidson's role. If confirmed, I certainly would.
Our current major ballistic missile defense assets in the Indo-Pacom include THAAD, South Korea and Guam, Aegis systems in service with U.S. naval assets in the Pacific and the Japanese Navy, and Patriot missile capability in South Korea and Japan. With Japan's uncertainty on Aegis ashore construction, we're an even greater disadvantage in sustaining a credible military deterrence against our competitors. So where do you assess the greater vulnerability exists when it comes to missile defense in the Pacific, and how do you plan to fix these?
So, Senator, the missile defense concern is throughout the theater.
Sure.
Guam.
I think mostly with Japan pulling back because of public support, pulling out of the Aegis. Where do you see that? That troubled me, being a great ally that they have been, all of a sudden, public opinion, and they pull out of the defense that I think is needed for their own country.
Yes, Senator. So, again, I think what they've done is they've decided to relook at whether Aegis ashore is the right answer. They certainly are partnered with us in the form of their Aegis destroyers. I think we have a shared responsibility and requirement to protect forces in Japan. I look forward, if confirmed, to work with the Japanese to try to get to the right answer for them.
Are you aware of any assistance being offered by Indo-Pacom to provide community engagement in Japan to help relieve or ease the public concern at this point in time? If not, it might be a good position for you to take on that one.
Yes, Senator. So I'm unaware of my current seat. If confirmed, I would look to work with the Missile Defense Agency to ensure, and I'd be surprised if Admiral Davidson was not having those conversations with his counterparts.
Okay. And speaking of Admiral Davidson, back in 2018, during his confirmation hearing that China is already capable of controlling the South China Sea in any scenario short of war with the U.S. Here we are 3 years later. We've heard repeated testimony that China has increased its naval forces, its Coast Guard, and other paramilitary forces. So what's stopping them right now from exercising their capability whenever they feel like it, of controlling the South China Sea?
The U.S. joint forces in the region, Senator, the partner nations.
They're growing stronger. We haven't done anything to deter it. They've taken these little outcrops and made them into major military bases.
Yeah, I would somewhat disagree with we haven't taken any action.
Okay.
I think if you looked at the events we've executed over the past couple of years, and I'll speak from my role as a Pacific Fleet Commander, multiple dual carrier strike group operations in the South China Sea, the most FONs and Taiwan Strait transits that have been executed in recent years, multiple bilateral and multilateral operations with our partners and allies, all in the South China Sea, I think would highlight that we can and will continue to operate there.
I didn't mean that in a detrimental way. I meant that in saying that they have taken small outcrops and continually enlarged those into a military confine, if you will. we or no one else seemed to be able to stop that or prevent that or took any actions before they got to the size they are now and to the operability they are.
Yes, Senator, we certainly haven't changed their desire, nor intent, nor ability to execute the largest military buildup we've seen in a while.
So it's safe to say that basically, unless we're going to have a major presence, as you just outlined, in the South China Sea, then they will have total control of that.
I think that credible forward presence, again, not just the United States, but with allies and partners, is the best deterrent option to ensure that we can keep that space free and open.
Thank you, sir, and I look forward to your confirmation and look forward to voting for you.
Thank you, Senator Manchin. Now let me recognize via WebEx Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for allowing for being generous with your time. We appreciate that and appreciate your service to our country. I want to talk with you just a little bit about China and our Chinese counterparts. You know that some deterrence and the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, these are things that are important to me. And our diplomats had a contentious encounter last week in Alaska. And Beijing's Foreign Affairs Chief, Director Yang, this was his statement. The U.S. does not have the qualification to say that it wants to speak to China from a position of strength. And if Congress fully funds the Pacific Deterrence Initiative at the levels proposed in Admiral Davidson's assessment, and listening to you this morning, it sounds as if you're in complete agreement with that. Talk to us about how we communicate that we believe we hold that position of strength in communicating with Beijing.
Thank you, Senator. I think what you described is what competition looks like in the future. Actions that we would take to ensure credible deterrence, the desire to not have conflict by the actions and operations that we execute, and understanding that there are things that we will do that our competitor will not find very good for them. So I think we have to be ready and have to understand what does that competition space look like and continue to execute those things that will allow us to keep the status quo.
Well, and I think probably too that you would agree that keeping these budgetary top lines that are going to give you what you need should be a priority as we look at our Indo-Pacom initiatives. Let me ask you this, okay? When you look at PDI, Combined Command Control Networks, and the mission partner environments in relation to interoperability and the needs of our regional security partners, and we look at this through the lens of cyber, through the lens of technology. Tell me what concerns you about China's aggressiveness in this great power competition when it comes to technology, to hardware, to setting standards, to infrastructure, to their cyber capabilities.
Thanks, Senator. So the key with the mission partner environment is that it absolutely must be cyber secure. We would not benefit from allowing the PLA to be able to infiltrate that network. So all the benefits that it provides for interoperability, for command and control, for resilience and reassurance, the concern would be the cybersecurity of that environment, and it would have to be top on the list of priorities as it were developed.
Well, in that regard, what about the vulnerabilities that are associated with cloud computing and integrated systems?
Thanks, Senator. So those technological advances, I think, while they identify vulnerabilities, also have opportunities. So as we shift and take advantage of those things, again, we have to make sure that they're cyber secure and unable to be infiltrated.
Thank you. Just a quick yes or no from you. Should we be increasing our bilateral participation in exercises with Taiwan?
Senator, we should continue to execute those things that we do with Taiwan, and should there be a policy shift, again, if confirmed, I'd hope to be in those conversations. We do exercise with Taiwan. We have visits with Taiwan. We have consultations. All of those are contributing to Taiwan's defense.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Let me now recognize Senator Duckworth via WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral Aquilino, I appreciate our call last week, and I am glad we were able to discuss some of the biggest challenges that you'll face if you're confirmed, including improving our logistics capabilities and capacity in the Indo-Pacom region. In addition to agreeing that our logistics enterprise is absolutely foundational to having a combat credible deterrent, I feel that we were very much on the same page about the need to strengthen our partnerships with the various nations in the region. You and I have both heard our regional partners say that they want a greater U.S. presence in the Indo-Pacific so that they have alternatives to the communist PRC when it comes to trading and security partners. But the tragic murders of 8 people in Atlanta last week, 6 of them of East Asian descent, highlighted a disturbing trend of an increasing violence and hate towards Asians and Asian Americans in this country, particularly those of East Asian descent. Regardless of the stated motive for last week's shooting, there is no arguing that cities across the country are reporting a drastic increase in violent crimes and discriminations targeting members of the AAPI community. It's also not hard to see a correlation between the stark rise in anti-Asian bigotry and our former Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump, blatantly using hateful and racist language, such as calling the coronavirus the Kung flu or the Chinese virus, long after such terminology has been deemed inappropriate and harmful. Shockingly, Trump spread such bigotry despite the FBI producing a report as early as March 2020 that included a clear and chilling assessment. Hate crime, and I quote, hate crimes against incidents against Asian Americans likely will surge across the United States due to the spread of coronavirus disease, endangering Asian American communities. And just last week, Gallup released a poll that found over the past year, the percentage of Americans who consider China to be the United States' greatest enemy today rose from 22% in February 2020 and 45% when measured last month. Let me be clear. There's a difference between expressing opposition to the communist Chinese government's aggressive economic and military practices, which I absolutely support opposing them, and ignorantly blaming Asian people, especially those of East Asian descent, for the coronavirus pandemic. Blaming the AAPI community for a public health crisis is racist and wrong, and I'm increasingly concerned that it will hurt our relationship with our partners in the Indo-Pacific region. Admiral Aquilino, when American leaders make racist statements about Asians and American citizens participate in anti-Asian hate, how does it harm the United States' credibility and reputation in the Indo-Pacific region? And please make sure to address how such bigotry and racist violence undermines our relationships with our allies and partners who may already be facing challenges in defending our presence in their respective nation states as views and attitudes towards the U.S. evolve with younger generations.
Thank you, Senator. To your first point, and you and I have had this conversation, right? Professionals talk logistics. So all of our efforts in the region are underpinned, and the relationships with our partners and allies will certainly be required to help us set up this enabling network and support our logistics issues. So thanks for that. To your second point, what I owe and what we all owe our incredibly brave service members is a safe, comfortable place where they can work and execute the oath that they have taken. So there's no place in our ranks for any type of discrimination, whether it be against Asians, whether it be race, creed, color, you name it. It's just completely unacceptable. It degrades from our readiness. And if confirmed, I can tell you it will not be tolerated.
So how does the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans and hateful rhetoric at the top ranks of government and the absolute lack of representation at the very top ranks of the Biden administration of AAPIs in secretarial positions or higher levels affect our relationships in the Indo-Pacom region? I mean, you're going to be going in there trying to make alliances and with folks in the Indo-Pacom region, and yet we have Asians being shot down, and we have even members of Congress targeting Asian Americans with hate rhetoric. How does that affect your job trying to develop relationships in the region?
Senator, our relationships in the region are critical. I have and will continue to say that. As a diverse military, we continue to ensure that our values are understood. I believe our allies and partners understand that when they talk with us, that we speak from a position of shared values. And as I said, if confirmed, I will do everything possible to ensure none of that discrimination is a part of how the Indo-Pacific operates.
Thank you. I have every confidence in your commitment to diversity, Admiral, and you've shown that in your service, and you've shown that in your conversations with me. And I thank you for continuing to be a leader, both in the military, but also when it comes to diversity in that military that we both love. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. Senator Hawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral, good to see you. I appreciated our conversation, and congratulations on your nomination. I want to start by revisiting something that you and I talked about at some length when we visited, which is the situation in Taiwan. Both Deputy Secretary Hicks and Admiral Davidson have testified that the U.S. should maintain the ability to defeat a fait accompli scenario in Taiwan. Do you agree with that?
Yes, Senator.
Do you think the department should also prioritize preparations for a Taiwan scenario so that we'll be able to deter China from attacking Taiwan should they attempt to do so?
Yes, Senator. That credible deterrence forward is absolutely required with the correct forces, the right magnitude of the forces, and the readiness of those forces.
Very good. The Deputy Secretary and Admiral Davidson have also testified that a strategy of denial is essential for deterring Chinese aggression. Secretary Austin said the same thing to me in response to a question that I had for him for the record. Do you agree with that a strategy of denial is essential for deterring China?
Yes, Senator.
Let me ask you about a question that you were posed earlier by one of my colleagues. You were asked about the importance of conventional deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. But I just want to get clear on your views here. The necessity of conventional deterrence, which I think we agree on, does not mean that nuclear deterrence has any less of a role, doesn't it? I mean, wouldn't you agree that our nuclear deterrent provides a critical backstop to our conventional deterrent, and that both are necessary to be able to effectively deter China?
Yes, Senator, absolutely. If I gave that impression, then I apologize.
You also said earlier that today that the threat of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan is much closer to us than most think. You and I talked about this at some length. Is it fair to say that this threat, when you said earlier, much closer to us than most think, is it fair to say that this threat could materialize well before 2035 or some of those very later dates that folks have put out there?
Yes, Senator, I believe it could.
And is it fair to say that we need to act now if we're going to prevent this threat from materializing in the future?
Yes, Senator, absolutely. A strong posture forward, linked with our allies and partners, I believe is the leading path for prevention.
Very good. Reports have indicated that Taiwan's upcoming quadrennial defense review is going to emphasize the need for Taiwan to adopt an asymmetrical defense posture. This, again, is something you and I visited about. Can you just give us a sense, why is it so important for Taiwan to invest in asymmetrical capabilities, especially those that are low cost, high impact?
Senator, as we discussed a bit, the resources they have require them to be spent in the correct manner to have the most effectiveness against the possible threat. I'm encouraged by some of those capabilities that they have purchased, and I'm encouraged by the capabilities that they're investing in an indigenous fashion for their defense. The example I would give you is the Harpoon system. I thought was very thoughtful and the right capability for one example.
What can the United States do to help encourage Taiwan to adopt a more asymmetric defense posture as quickly as possible?
I think as a part of the Taiwan's Relation Act, offering the right capabilities with the right support is the best way to ensure that they certainly understand all of their options. They get to make their own choices, but by providing credible, realistic options with recommendations would be helpful.
Let me ask you about something else we discussed on the phone. The Guam Defense Act has been Indo-Pacom's top unfunded priority for the last 3 years. Just generally speaking, give us a sense of why Guam is so important from a military operational standpoint.
It's certainly in a strategic location west of the international date line, distant enough to be able to protect our forces, muster our forces, and as you know, there's over 20,000 service members on Guam. So combined with the 170,000 American citizens, we certainly are responsible to protect those people. But the strategic location is critical to be able to provide forces quickly in the area we need them.
Let me just ask you finally, the Quad appears to be forming the basis for a regional coalition to stand up to Chinese aggression. How do you see the Quad contributing to deterrence in the Indo-Pacific now and in the future?
I think it's extremely important when you look at India as the world's largest democracy, combined with 3 other nations of shared values and beliefs. When a organization of that magnitude comes together, it would generate concern for anyone with an opposite opinion.
Very good. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Sullivan, please. Oh, excuse me, Senator Rosen by WebEx. Forgive me. Senator Rosen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. And thank you, Ranking Member. And I want to thank you, Admiral, for your service, for your willingness to continue to serve and step up and take on this extremely important role in our national defense. I really appreciate that. And I'd like to talk a little bit about maintaining our technological edge, because at the heart of China's military modernization efforts, of course, there's Beijing's investment in next generation military capabilities. We've talked about that earlier in the hearing when I was in the room. And we want to close that technological gap. China's making advances in critical areas like artificial intelligence, cyber, robotics, hypersonics, and they're at the same time rapidly procuring commercial technologies that can be used for military purposes. So do you believe that China has achieved technological parity with the U.S. and its operational systems? And are there any areas that you're concerned about that they have outpaced us?
Thanks, Senator. I don't believe they have achieved parity. I think they have a desire in the technological world to increase and ultimately to gain an overmatch. I think it's extremely important that we don't let that happen. So one of our competitive advantages is our ability to do S&T research and keep that technological edge, and we have to continue to do that.
And so if you're confirmed, how would you incorporate this increasingly technological nature of warfare into our domains of warfare, into joint coalition exercises, like we do, of course, many of them in Nevada and, of course, around the world?
Thanks, Senator. So if confirmed, I think there's a lot of opportunity to be able to do that. As you highlighted, the efforts that are executed at both the Nellis ranges and the Fallon ranges are places where we certainly experiment and try to work to get to those improved technological advantages. I think that it's applicable across the entire region to ensure we can develop, test, and ultimately implement those advanced capabilities.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm proud of all the training that we do in Nevada, but I know that this training requires improved skill sets, retraining, improving training, and of course, new training for young men and women who are joining our military. And so how are you planning to recruit and retain, build up that workforce that we're going to need within Indo-Pacom, particularly in these areas of technology?
Thanks, Senator. So the services have that responsibility as a part of their Title X taskings. If I were confirmed, I would highlight to the service chiefs certainly what is needed in an increased technological footprint. And if you look from a Navy perspective, currently the CNO does a great job at recruiting and retaining the best. It's getting extremely competitive across the workforce to recruit and retain, and all of the services are doing a really good job at maintaining that capability and advancement.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. I have instituted a bill that was in the NDA last year about adding a cyber track to our junior ROTC program, and hopefully that will build up our force. But I'd like to, in the last remaining minute or so, talk a little bit about the state partnership program. Of course, this initiative links our state's National Guards with the armed forces. We cooperate, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and I know that Indo-Pacom maintains 10 of these SPP relationships. So in Nevada, our Nevada National Guard, we have existing partnerships with Fiji and Tonga to support Indo-Pacom's mission in the South Pacific. So can you talk about how you're going to work with National Guards in these partnerships, of course, to be sure that they know what you're planning going forward so they can prepare and plan to complete their mission sets by improving the skill sets of our National Guard as well?
Yeah, thanks, Senator. It's extremely important. I've had a chance to work with Ken Hara, the head of the National Guard in Hawaii, and it continues to pay dividends. As it applies to foreign partners, it's just as helpful. And if confirmed, I would continue to execute those 10 partner link-ups and look for additional opportunities because I think there's some there.
Thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator. Now let me recognize Senator Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral, good to see you again. I appreciated the opportunity to have another discussion and look forward to more discussions going forward. Congratulations on your nomination. I want to just talk a little bit about Alaska and the Pacific. Have you been to the great state of Alaska?
Senator, I have not yet been, but
Okay.
I will come and visit Alaska at first opportunity.
Good. We need to get on that, and I'm going to talk a little bit reason why. I was just home. I just got back. There's a lot of fireworks with this U.S.-China meeting in Anchorage. I had the opportunity to meet with Secretary Blinken, National Security Advisor Sullivan, and Kurt Campbell, who's also doing a really good job at the NSC. Right after the meeting, I was glad to see our Alaska-based military. On Thursday, when the Chinese were approaching, we're doing some exercises with the F-22 Raptors there right around the hotel. Give the Chinese delegation a little view of what's in Alaska. As you know, we're going to have over 100 fifth-generation fighters, F-22s, F-35s, by the end of this year. And then on Friday, when the Chinese are still in Alaska, the Air Force announced 4 new tankers, KC-135s, going to Alaska. The previous Secretary of Defense called this combination tankers, 105th Gen fighters, giving our country extreme strategic reach. These fighters could be in the Taiwan Strait if they're supersonic within 5 hours. These forces are actually OPCON to PACOM, as you know, in Alaska. What do you see as the role of these combat credible forces from Alaska play within the Indo-Pacific, given that you will be in command of them?
Thanks, Senator. I have to correct a previous statement. I said I would visit Alaska. I have to say, if confirmed, I would visit Alaska at first opportunity. So,
Good.
Senator Reid, I apologize. The forces in Alaska are critical for both the defense of the homeland, Senator, as you know. They support the different ACL levels in the event of either Russian bomber flights and would be critically needed as a surge force in time of either crisis or conflict, as you clearly identify. Senator Inhofe identified the capabilities needed in fifth generation to be able to enter that contested space to fight and win. So I agree with all those comments that you made.
Let me, real quick, just sorry to interrupt, but I got a couple more questions. There's oftentimes, and you've mentioned it already, this kind of delineation west of the international date line is delineation for PACOM. But as you know, Admiral, the further north you get, the international date line in some ways doesn't matter. Just so I'm kind of aware of your geography, your recognition of geography. We have a lot of forces in Alaska, a lot of forces in Hawaii, a lot of forces in Australia. Which of these are closer to Korea and Japan? Our forces in Hawaii or forces in Alaska?
Well, certainly Alaska would be closer to
That's correct.
Korea and Japan.
Yeah, and how about Australia versus Alaska, closer to Korea and Japan?
Yes, Senator, Alaska's closer.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, believe it or not. So it's not just international date line, it's how north you are and how close you are. So keep that in mind. You're going to be in charge of these, and you are going to get confirmed, and I'm going to strongly support it. Your recommendations are going to be important. This, I believe, is going to certainly be viewed now going forward as the most important combatant command that we have anywhere around the world. In 2015, President Obama and President Xi Jinping stood in the Rose Garden, and President Xi Jinping promised the President of the United States and the American people not to militarize the South China Sea. Did President Xi Jinping keep that promise?
No, Senator, he did not.
He didn't, not even close. What I refer to as promise fatigue, right? The Chinese make promises over decades. They rarely keep those promises. Promise fatigue. We're sick of it. It was widely reported, and this committee followed it closely, that because of this, we said, let's do freedom of navigation operations. As a matter of fact, your predecessor said, we need to do it. John Kerry, then the Secretary of State, said, no, we have a good climate deal in Paris with the Chinese, no FONOPs. Was that a good idea to exchange FONOPs for a vague promise on the Paris Climate Accords?
Senator, just so you know, I'm unaware of that agreement.
Assume that happened, because it did. Was that a good idea from Secretary Kerry?
Well, what I would say is we've continued fawn operations.
No, we didn't then. Trust me, this committee was pressing for it. We wouldn't do them. Was that a good idea? Vague promises on the Paris Climate Accords from John Kerry and the Chinese for no FONOPs in the South China Sea for at least 2 years?
Well, Senator, I think FONOPs are important. They identify our link to the need for international order through normal rules and standards and laws.
Was that a good idea? Assume that happened. Assume that could happen one more time. Let's say John Kerry, who's got another role, says, I got a good commitment from the Chinese. They just want us to not do FONOPs through the Taiwan Strait. Would that be a good idea?
Senator, I think FONOPs have served us well over the past 3 years since I've been at Pacific.
So you wouldn't agree with that idea if Kerry put it forward again?
I think we
You're
should,
going to be asked.
I think we should continue FONOPs, Senator.
In the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait,
Yes, sir.
regardless of commitments from China on vague climate change commitments that they might get from John Kerry.
I think that we should continue those operations to assure our allies and partners and ensure we can operate anywhere international law allows.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. Senator Tuberville, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Best for last. Put a football coach last. I've been impressed. I've been in all these meetings for the last 2 months, and Admiral, I'm impressed. Thanks for your service and your family being here. They're very important, and what a job you got in front of you. Just sitting and listening to all the things going on in our world. Huge job. You know, heard all the questions about Taiwan and China and all the things that go on. You forgot more than we know about it, and we're going to be trusting you for that. It's important that, you know, we fight through the climate change and the diversity and all the things going on. I believe in that. You know, I was a football coach. I mean, you have to plug all that in. But we need to build a team. You need to build a team because we're getting ready to go in waters unknown over the next few years with the money that the CCP is putting in and the things that we're going to have to prepare for. One thing I want to know, and I'm going to vote for you, I believe, you know, you're ready to go. Turn it over to you and protect our world, not just our country. I just wanted, are you going to be able to stand up and fight, you know, this administration for more money? We don't need to be cutting. We need to be adding. And are you willing and say to us today that you're willing to fight, you know, for what you believe in terms of adding on to Guam, for instance? You know, we hadn't added anything hardly in the last 10 years. We need to recapitalize. Will you promise that you'll fight for that money that we need for our military?
Senator, thanks. So if confirmed, I will provide my best military advice and recommendations to request those things that are needed to do the mission that I would have been assigned. And if that's the case, I will give it absolute straight with conviction on what I believe is the right way forward.
Well, to me, our freedom and our liberty and our families and our kids and grandkids depend on it, that we make sure that we defend not just this country, but our allies and the world. Because these people over there that we're getting ready to deal with, that you know, that you've seen, you know, they don't play fair. They steal everything that we've got. You know, we develop it and they steal it. And it doesn't cost them near as much. You think that's fair? Or you know, we just saw what we went through with the pandemic. You know, we shipped everything over to China. They make everything that we do. And now we're scrambling to try to figure out how to handle the next pandemic. Hopefully it doesn't come along. Are we the same way in the military? Have you seen that? Do we have the capabilities to build what we need in this country right now?
Senator, I think we do. I think what we've learned over the past 10 years is we do have to protect those advantages, technological, trade secrets, and advantages that we have. So we should be aware that competitors will intend to try to take it, and we have to be able to secure it and defend it.
You know, as Marines are operating in smaller units in the Pacific, you know, how do you plan to afloat medical support? You know, the Mercy and the Comfort they're large, you know, and they're slow to deploy. Would a smaller forward-based hospital ship capable of quicker and faster engagement, do you think that would be better served for what y'all do in the Pacific?
Senator, we've done a lot over the last 3 years on generating a concept of operations, how to ensure we can provide medical support to our forces in time of crisis and conflict. And it looks a lot different when you look at an area that covers half the globe. Most of it has water on it. We are looking at all options to be able to quickly pick up, care for, and return our forces, joint forces that may have been wounded. One of those things that's being looked at is a different form of hospital ship than we're used to. And if confirmed, we'll continue to look at those other options and what might be the best way.
Yeah, I think it's important because we're in a different part of the world. And we look at, you know, of course, I'm from Alabama, and we have Huntsville. We build all the missiles and the rockets and have 800 defense contractors. We build ships and boats down in Mobile that hopefully you've seen some. I think the LCS or whatever, made out of aluminum, a little different. But you know, I'm a common sense guy, and I just want us prepared. You know, and I see you're going to be hit from all different directions, and I just hope, and you know, when you're confirmed that you're ready, you're willing, and you're ready. I just hope you're able to get what you need to protect this country and protect our kids and our grandkids from future attack, because they're coming, and you're going to be the first line of defense. So again, thank you for your service, and thank you for everything that you've done and thing that you're going to do for us in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Tuberville. Senator Sullivan would like to ask one question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It might be a series of one question, but no, I'm just kidding. It's going to go back to the PDI. And Admiral, I'm sure you saw that when Admiral Davidson was here just 2 weeks ago, he talked about the full funding, $4.6 billion of the PDI was something that would be critical in halting the erosion of our nation's conventional deterrence in the Indo-Pacom region. He actually said, quote, PDI is the foundational approach to advancing capabilities and capacity while strengthening our allies and partnerships for an integrated joint force west of the international date line. I already talked about how international date line is in some ways a artificial construct that doesn't really fully reflect the force posture, particularly as you go north. But the question is, given that he's been public about it, given that you've been public about it, given that this committee actually passed in a very strong bipartisan way the initiative of the PDI last year in the NDAA, what message does it send to China if we have a robust top-line defense budget that fully funds the PDI as you and Admiral Davidson have requested? And alternatively, what message does a declining defense budget and not funding the PDI send to China?
Thanks, Senator. I do believe it sends a strong message that the entirety of government in the United States is focused on the challenge that we've identified as it applies to the Western Pacific. I do agree that the initial funding last year, and I thank the committee for all of their work, $2.2 billion to start. I think foundational is the right word. This is not a one-trick pony. This is going to be, it's going to take some sustainment to ensure we can generate that credible deterrence and keep it going.
And just again, I asked two questions. Alternatively, if that's not funded at $4.6 billion, which is what the Admiral has requested, and you, I believe, support, and this committee supports, by the way, in a bipartisan way, what kind of message would that send if we don't do it, we, the federal government, we, the Biden administration, to be frank, if we don't do it despite the fact that the PACOM commander has said we need to do it? What kind of message would that send?
Yeah, I think it's the wrong signal, Senator, a lack of commitment and a lack of ability to follow through on what we believe is needed.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. Admiral, thank you for your devoted service to the nation and the Navy and the profound support of your family and your colleagues from the fleet. And please convey to all of the men and women of your command our deepest and profound appreciation for their work. We look forward to moving forward with this nomination. With that, the hearing is adjourned, and I'll remind my colleagues that a vote is pending right now. Thank you very much, Admiral.
Thank you, Senator.